It's the Eager Beaver Spooktacular! Part 2.
So I'm incredibly excited to be here with all of you today because we're doing something very different. A good friend of mine gave up their ticket and offered me their place to come out here to Orlando, Florida at Walt Disney World, specifically the Magic Kingdom, for what I believe is called Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I know, but names can be misleading. It could be very scary and they're just leading us on. Besides that, in the spirit of Halloween, I, a 29-year-old man, have been invited to go trick-or-treating. So naturally, I dressed up as myself and I brought the biggest bag I could find in my grandma's closet. I mean, cameraman, come here, look. Look at how big this thing is. It's ridiculous. So naturally, I intended to make out like a bandit tonight and fill this thing up 3 times over, because I don't think I'm going to be invited to come back here by the time we're done. So please, come along with me on this adventure.
On this trip, my mother is with me here.
I thought it was funny.
Now, if anyone feels like making fun of her, please remember I will show up to your house and beat you with my fists. But no worry, everyone on this channel is incredibly civilized. What surprised me the most is actually how popular this event is on an international level, and for us, the only way to get there was by means of a boat. I have to be honest with you that this might have actually been my favorite ride of the day starting off. There is something kind of fun about going across Lake Buena Vista in a boat looking at a giant castle. It's highly likely that this event was sold out. In general, it runs for 3 months, and October is the most popular by far. There really is something to be said about walking through those false marble and bronze gates, because once you cross that border, you really enter another world. So from here, I'm gonna change the music up. This was one of the most effective means of cordoning people off and funneling them that I've ever seen. The only thing scary about it was the fact that people did it so willingly. But then again, I really couldn't be upset because they were offering free candy and there were bubbles in the air. Oftentimes, we warn our children, don't accept candy from strangers. But here I was, accepting candy from strangers. And after that first dopamine hit, I was hooked. I mean, this place had it all. It even had some crazy old lady in the tower yelling at us, just like my grandma used to when she reminded me that we were at war with the Germans and needed to ration our food in the Victory Garden. I felt incredibly out of sorts in this place and really out of my element, but I also wanted more sugar. And maybe I just found it strange that the only real castle in America was also built by a man who invented a cartoon rat. But I can't be jealous, that's the American dream, baby. Also, it just makes for a nice photo opportunity. As pretty and mesmerizing as this all is, I have to admit, it also makes me feel a touch claustrophobic just because of the crowds and the lack of nature. So naturally, I hunted for some of that nature in this park. And soon I found it with this here egret. Isn't he so lovely? In fact, he walked around like he owned the place. Once I saw him fly off to some of that water and chew on a French fry, I felt much better. Now here's a place that speaks a bit more to my heart. That's right, folks, it's Adventureland. And we had a pretty nice Jules Verne-esque film opportunity here, just a few friendly family photos. At least I got to live out my dreams of being 20,000 leagues under. And after that, we got to go to a place that really fit me, known as Jungle Navigation Co. Skipper's Cantina. And part of me is a little embarrassed to admit this as a grown man, but I love this place. I mean, it's got a study and a library, and it's full of all kind of fake antiques and antiquity on the walls. Even the lavatory is nice. In fact, it has great reading material available to you there. All in all, this was a really fun place, and it brought out the inner child in me, no lie. That said, I do have a favorite decoration.
Get a load of this.
Yes, even this fine restaurant has a corner of shame, And just like my own house, 10 months out of the year, I hide my decorations. But that's enough waffle on all the pretty decorations. Let's talk about the food. More specific, give me a moment here to get liquored up and properly in the mood.
It's going to be a good night.
And thus began a long 3-course meal of delicious Brazilian cheese bread, then duck confit with cucumber and fried rice. Compliments to the chef here. And mother enjoyed steak and potato, which, again, solid choice. And all of this was followed up by a delicious basil custard bar with mango and then a mango graham cracker custard. Delicious. They liked us so much at this restaurant that they made us honorary members of the crew, which is good. Now I have a day job. In simple, that was a good time. Now enough of that gushy hand-holding stuff. Let's get on to the whole spooky Halloween party going on outside. The first thing they did after booting us out the gate of the restaurant was throw us directly into a line for a trick-or-treating candy treat. Let me skip ahead and show you. Yes, this right here was the beginning of a very sugar-induced addiction. Wherever I went, the demon known as candy called me forward. So many places did I roam, to so many strange vendors did I arrive, begging them for more and more sweet and delicious candy. Before too long, I knew that I was getting to be in a very bad place. I would roam from street to street, begging and asking constantly any stranger I could for more and more of that delicious sweet dopamine hit. Soon I realized I had become addicted to this false idol known as the M&M, so I blamed them entirely.
Take a look at this. Look at this. Look at all of this loot we're getting. And that's after only 3 stops. And it's not even midnight.
Before too long, I found myself wandering the streets aimlessly, constantly looking for my next dopamine high of delicious, chocolate-covered Halloween sugary goodness candy. Like an indebted gambler going across the Las Vegas Strip, I was looking for opportunity, but before long, I realized that that opportunity had led me astray and taken me far from the path of a true Halloween trick-or-treater believer. And that's when I found my first true moment of salvation. The first moment of true relief came from the classic ride, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And guys, that 35 minutes up there was a total lie. We didn't even wait 5 minutes. Frankly, we got to this ride and it was an immediate walk-on. Now, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to share with you the footage of the ride, but I can tell you it had a very nice Halloween-esque overlay. But you're probably asking, did they have fun? Why, yes. Yes, we did. But the party was only beginning, because we finally went to a place where our souls really began. That's right. It's the Pirates of the Caribbean. And I was completely surprised because the only person I saw in line was the janitor. This is a ride that usually sees a couple 10,000 people a day and takes about an hour to 2 hours to get on, but we were completely by ourselves.
Hello? What?
Honestly, it might have been the scariest moment of the night, because I was wondering if the entire staff of Pirates of the Caribbean had died. But no, we ended up doing the ride and had the entire building to ourselves. After which, when we stepped outside, we were greeted by a pirate rock band, which actually, they slapped. Just take a listen.
We walked up the Jolly Roger, like the crew on deck. Our captain is at the helm down line. Our ship didn't be bound to wreck.
Now, I don't know about you, but I would personally quite gladly down a few shots and a pint of Jack just for this song alone. But fortunately, none of you are going to see me square dance on this channel at this time. Then, from the world of pirates and square dancing, I progressed into the world of the future. And let me tell you, it is surprisingly hollow and plastic, but the lights are very cool. Further, it looks like Elon Musk was beaten to Mars because a mouse got there first. Sorry, bud. I was forced to meander my way through a very bizarre, what appeared to be college or high school prom, and then from there I had to face the true terror of taking public transportation.
This is really something else. I think I miss my Jeep very much, but I can get used to this.
All jest aside, if you're a sucker for pretty colors like I am, this isn't such a bad ride after all. But enough of this sissy stuff. Let's get some adrenaline going, huh? Let's go on a real man's ride. That's right, guys. It's the teacups. If you know, you know. Some call them kitty teacups. I like to call them the Vomit Comet. And I love spinning hard on these babies. I also enjoy this ride because my mother hates this ride. Because this ride makes her also want to spew, to upchuck, to regurgitate if you would. But hey, that's part of the fun of choosing the ride. To be fair, I tried to count down to 10 for my mother. That way she could at least expect me to stop at some point in the future. And these are some of the most prized possessions I have now. My mother's reactions here are indeed genuine and real, but she was such a good sport about the entire thing. But I can't deny, this just makes me smile. And at the end of the ride, she had to lie down for a minute to stop the world from spinning in her head. But hey, we do that every day, don't we? From there, we made it to the all-time #1 Halloween attraction, the Haunted Mansion. And I have to admit to you right now, I was a bit disappointed in it because it was not particularly scary. Not because it just happened to be at Disney World, but because it largely just looked like the house I grew up in as a child. Huh. Even worse, there was this old lady in the front lawn who looked and talked a lot like my grandma. The only difference being that she wasn't asking me to go outside and weed her victory garden. So, I guess that's a bonus. The ride also broke down at one point for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I had these scary bats looking at me for most of the ride. But hey, at least it was air-conditioned, and I was having fun. Even if I was sitting in pitch darkness for 5 minutes straight. Now enough of that belly aching. I know what you really want to hear about. That's right, this giant papier-mâché castle right before your very eyes. A sign of American royalty like no other. For starters, this castle has a sick-as-hell light display, and it makes me jealous, because I wish the lights in my own house worked half as good as these did. What strikes me as even more incredulous is the fact that this castle is practically besieged every night with fireworks, and yet it doesn't even get a burn mark or a scratch. Whatever that house is made of, I need it in my life, because I can get rid of my insurance at that point. And forget about all that talk about Buckingham Palace royalty. Just look at the people who flock to this thing every day of the year. I mean, look at the crowd. If you go far right here, there's literally Obi-Wan Kenobi and a serial killer clown in the same place, all to see the castle. Please bear in mind that what I have said in many ways is just for good-hearted jest, but at the same time, as false as this castle may be, please remember, it built a global empire. Now, as many of you may or may not know, there is one true grand finale to the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. And that's right, friends. After the fireworks, it's a massive parade, and everybody wants to be in on that. Now, I've been making fun of Disney a fair bit, but seeing the headless horseman ride right by me was sick as hell. Just look at that. Does that not scream Halloween? That's worth the price of admission right there, folks. And taking that further, this woman right here, this woman gets my badass seal of approval. Why? Because I have shoveled after horses before, and that stuff is heavy. This is someone who works for a living and is worthy of respect. Absolute mad lad legend there. Thank you for your service. From there, the Mouse King himself flaunts his wealth before the commoners. It's also very cool because I get to see my grandparents breakdancing before an entire crowd. It really is amazing what's possible when people do jazzercise. The real cherry on top, however, was being able to see the band Daft Punk perform live. I had no idea that they had gotten back together, but man, do they look great. I cannot deny it. I was having childlike fun watching all of this. As much as I jest, I want you all to know now that the people who perform in this are working particularly hard. I do not believe the film does it credit to say that these people were sweating bullets the entire time. Also, the fact that a giant pirate ship just went right by my face really speaks to the child within me. So you're probably asking yourself, how could such a beautiful night end? Well, friends, let me tell you. Typical of Florida, at 11:45, a torrential downpour came down, which at least reminded me that the tropics have remained very much the tropics. And the crowds that had so desperately before lined up to watch the shows and get on the rides now so desperately scattered to get out of the rain. As the deluge continued to fall down, a mass exodus of park-goers began making its way down Main Street. All the way they were of course pelted by soft rain and of course the exciting sound of bubblegum pop music. But don't think for a second that yours truly, the Eager Beaver, was unprepared for such a calamity. That's right, we brought ponchos.
Smile for the camera, see. This is the most magical place on earth, right?
It makes for memories.
There you go.
Forgive me if I sound arrogant, but while so many other people were soaking and miserable, my mother and I were relatively comfortable. In our safari gear and ponchos, we were rather living it up. Further, while everyone else was leaving the park, we finally had the opportunity to take a few pictures. For example, here we are by the local courthouse. Isn't that sweet? And here's a real nice one across from the train station. All of that said and done, eventually the rain did subside and the crowds let way. We finally reboarded our boat and disembarked for home. Now, allow me the opportunity to discuss with you my very initial and honest reactions about this event.
Shh! We have made off like bandits tonight. I'm holding right now 10 pounds of candy, American pounds, in this bag here. This bag got so heavy over the course of the night that it actually broke one of my straps. You can see I just had to throw it over for the time being temporarily. But there's no fixing that right now without staples and hot glue. Wow, what an incredible time we've had. So let me tell you some about it.
The fact that the bag weighed 10 pounds is really not an exaggeration. It was laden with candy and all kinds of other confectionery goods. Further, all of this candy is from the Mars brand, who largely help and sponsor the event, but I'm going to be eating well for a good while, and so will most of my family, to be quite honest and fair.
So currently on the clock, it is 1:13 in the morning. So we got back late. And even though it rained, I really had an incredible time. I really want to thank the people who invited me out here because I had no plan in doing this originally, and it's so off the beaten course of items that I would usually do. But what fun! It really is a privilege to almost be like a kid again. The last time I went trick-or-treating was over a decade ago, over 15 years ago, probably even more than that. So it was so much fun to come out and do this. I won't deny you have to pay a bit of a premium to get here to Florida and then pay to get into the park. And this experience is not for everyone, but obviously there is a market for grown adults and families who want to go trick-or-treating together and ride rides. I had such a fun time. Again, I want to thank the people who invited me out, including my mother, and the people who gave up their tickets just so I could be here today. Thank you so much for that. And to all of our subscribers, I wish you a very safe, happy, and fun Halloween. And please, get ready to enjoy the holiday season soon. Goodbye.
Thank you again. This is the Eager Beaver signing off, and of course, Happy Halloween.